Across the street from Catarata Oropendula, sharing the same parking lot, is the Parque National, Rincon de la Vieja, which loosely means the corner of the old woman, and the story goes is that the two families of her lover were fighting, and they threw the husband or the boyfriend into the volcano, and she subsequently jumped in it also. So I don't know if that's true or not. But here you'll see two trails, one left, one right. If you go straight, you highly recommend it is to do the lower trail also, which is a beautiful, it basically goes through these different hot springs, bubbling springs, mud bubbling out of the ocean or out of the earth. It's really it's all low level. It's flat. It's fairly easy hike. It's probably about an hour and 20, hour and a half to do. So it's really tricky to do both of these at the same time. We did the first one, the previous trip, never had the time to do this second trip, which is it ends up Catarata La Congeja. So that's the trail that goes to the left, and this gives you a little bit of a view of what the trail is like. Perhaps we hit it at a good time with the overcast, not too sunny. We did have a little bit of rain, not much, and it did make the trail a little bit more muddy, but I think that can be expected here. There is a dry season, and if you hit it during the dry season, you're probably not going to have the mud and the slipperiness to deal with. Nonetheless, it's still a highly ranked trail to do. 2 hours to get to the waterfalls. Take a picnic with you so that you can take sufficient time to relax, recover, if you will, and then about 2 hours back. So depending on how long you stay at the waterfalls, it could be a 4 hour round trip, 4.5 hours, depending on how fast you're going. Here we had a 50-year-old, a 65-year-old, and a 7-year-old doing this trail. It's arduous, but it's not that difficult to do. It tends to be a little bit long, but not that difficult. So it's really well laid out. Anybody should be able to do it. It's got these nice little features. Most of the trail does have some assistance like this on it. There's a couple areas where it's kind of steepish, and you are going through lots of roots and rocks, and that gets a little bit hairier. I ran across a little hot spring on the way on the trail, and the hot spring the stream from the hot spring just disappeared underneath into the earth. So who knows where that ended up going, but I think it probably ended up going to the Rio Negro. Again, this is the trail. Lots of canopy, so it's well covered. So this is that hot spring I discovered, and it's on the right of the path, and then it goes right. It goes into a cave. I wasn't brave enough to go in there, but at any rate, this is a volcanically active area, and you are going to see a few of those things. That's the only one that I saw. Once we get to the about 2/3 on the trail, there is somewhat of a clearing, and you can actually see 1 or 2 hot springs somewhat in the distance, the smoke rising. So this is an unusual tree. It's kind of a parasitic tree. It starts to grow on a living tree, and then it kills the living tree, and then it uses the dead tree as its structure to keep on growing, and then eventually that tree rots out, and that's what remains. Yeah, I would say that this Rincon de la Vieja Park is a must-see, especially when you're in the area, if you are staying. So there are 2 different paths here. We took the one on the left. Again, you have to be time sensitive depending on when you start your trail or start your hike. You don't want to get, for example, I think they say they close at 3:30 or 4:30, and so there is a little bit of a time constraint. So think of it, if you start at 10 or 11 o'clock, you stay up there for an hour, it could be pretty close to 5 o'clock by the time you get back. Nonetheless, fortunately, the ranger station was all closed down, and it didn't matter whether we got there 5 or 6 o'clock. As long as you could still see, you're probably just going to be just fine. There was nobody there to punish you, if you will. Most of the trail is flattish, relatively easy to do. There are just a couple of parts that are a little bit slippier, a little bit wetter, and steeper with rocks, and you really have to navigate between the rocks and the roots. So this is the clearing that I spoke a minute ago about, and I think when the park ranger says you have to be careful, make sure you bring a lot of water, well, we hit it when it was pretty cloudy, but I could see that it could be pretty hot up there. This is basically a narrow bridge over a creek. So we're getting close. This is probably about 2/3, maybe a little bit more than 2/3 towards the end, which ends at La Congreja and La Congreja. Congreja means crab. So apparently in the old days there used to be a lot of freshwater crabs that lived in the streams, and not so many now. Matter of fact, when we were in that clearing area, I had binoculars, and you could see way off in the distance, you could actually see the coast, you could see the ocean, which is kind of cool because you're fairly high up. Now we're actually descending. We were at that clearing, that flat plateau area, and now you're descending back down, which is probably going to the valley where the bottom of the river begins, or bottom of the river is. Because again, if you take a nice little picnic, you're going to want to take a little bit of time at the end of the trail, which ends at La Congreja. There's a little bit of a scene. You're not going to get your big tourist groups here. You're going to get people that can actually walk a 4 or 5 hour hike. All right, thanks for watching. Remember to subscribe.